So as we look at this, we're asking this question: is the story of Lazarus a parable? That's the question I want to ask us today. Is it a parable? Because in many of the ways that Jesus spoke to us on this earth, he was always speaking stories. Isn't that cool how Jesus was always painting a picture for us? He was giving us a visual aid of something that takes place. That's how I learn. That's how I can know something. That's why movies, sometimes in the beginning of a movie, they'll start out with some real soft music, have someone walking down a street or something. It's telling a story. When Jesus is telling this parable, he's saying, now there was a rich man who habitually dressed in purple and fine linen, joyously living in splendor every day. It's distinguishing between what takes place with the Pharisees, because in verse 14 it says, now the Pharisees were lovers of money, were listening to all these things, and were scoffing at Jesus. This is what takes place right before he tells this parable. He right before he tells this story, he's saying that the Pharisees, they were lovers of money. And so Jesus is like, oh, I got a story for you. I got a story. So God questions would say something like this. They said, the story of the rich man and Lazarus presents no spiritual truth directly with no earthly metaphor. So I think there's a large consensus in church that says that this does not provide an earthly metaphor. And I believe that really misses the point of what Jesus is saying. Because I think you can look at it as a fact. I think definitely it can be a real thing that took place. You can see it as a true story, or you can see it as simply a parable. But whether it is an untrue story or it is a true story, nevertheless, there is a meaning behind it. And that was the meaning that Jesus was giving to us. The story of Lazarus paints a great picture for us, and it reminds us that we need the Lord. Notice Lazarus has a name. There was a poor man named Lazarus. Lazarus gets the name, but even the rich, they go without a name. The rich who went to Hades, that place, they went without a name. They had no name to them. Yet in the scripture, in the book of Revelation, it says that I have inscribed your name in the book of life. I've inscribed Russell in the book of life. I've inscribed Jonathan in the book of life. Swagda is in the book of life. But in Hades, what takes place, there's no name. He's just a rich man. He has no name. Whereas Lazarus, yes, you have a name. Because when we have salvation in Jesus Christ, when we receive what he's done for us, he gives us a new name. He calls us righteous. He calls us holy. He calls you blessed. The world, they're not going to give you a name. Hades ain't going to give you no name.